Pantsing versus plotting. Which side are you on? Hi, I'm Marcus, and I'm the idiot on the writer's block. If you're new to the channel, I, the idiot, ask experts for tips on how to write, publish, and promote my first fiction novel. You can check this link for a playlist that has all the questions I've already asked on this channel. And to help this channel get really successful on YouTube, please like the videos, share it with your friends, put tons of things in the comments, and subscribe to get more tips on how to write, publish, and promote your first fiction novel. Now, I found out while interviewing my experts about a couple of concepts called pantsing and plotting. Pantsing being flying by the seat of your pants while writing your story. In other words, not actually planning what's happening, just going for it and seeing where the story takes you. Or plotting, where you are methodical in laying out all the beats of your story before you even begin writing it. I know the generic answer to that question will probably be, I'm a bit of both, that you do a little bit of one and a little bit of the other, but I'm sure writers fall into one camp or the other, where at your core you're a pantser, or maybe the idea of seeing where things take you sends a shiver up your spine. So I wanted to see which camp my writer experts fell into. See, even the dogs are fighting about it. Pantser versus plotter. And here were the results. Pantser versus plotter.
Okay, so a plotter is somebody who will plan out their novel before they start writing, and that can look like a variety of things. It could look like a 30,000 word outline. It could look like some post-its on a page. These things are on a spectrum. A pantser, or somebody who writes into the dark, is somebody who doesn't plan. They sit down with an idea or not, and they start writing, and they don't stop until they get to the end. Now, I think the argument is irrelevant. I think the most important question is the process that you are using to write books helping you to get them finished? That's the important question. Are you finishing books? If you're not, your process is wrong. And that's it. That's the end of it. It doesn't matter which one you are, as long as you're finishing the goddamn book. And everybody gets so caught up in what's right and what's wrong. And the thing is, I have done both. I have written books without an outline. I have written books with an outline. And maybe you're a person who doesn't have a hard and fast, this is my process. Maybe each story comes to you differently, and that is okay. I think there is a lot of pressure around these terms of pantser and plotter, and it doesn't really matter so long as you're finishing the story. For me personally, I sit closer to the plotter end of the scale, but again, I don't go over the top. So I will have my story outline in terms of story structure, and I will make sure I know what certain points and events are. I will do some character planning, just thoughts dumping, and then I will skinny draft. So I will, because the thing I don't like about pantsing is when I waste words. So I will write, a few hundred words in each chapter to make sure I'm hitting all of the points. And that enables me to go off on a tangent if I want, without writing thousands and thousands of words. And then I will draft the whole thing. I'll go back and finish, pad each chapter out.
I am a complete and utter pantser. There is just no other way. I've tried writing ideas down in books and on papers. Books and papers, if you ever see my classroom, it's chaos. Books and papers disappear on me overnight. I keep all my weird ideas upstairs where I can't lose it over there. Look, I get it that people plan every minute detail. I can't work like that. I tried it, it just doesn't work for me. Pantsing, my ideas is up here. It is utter chaos in my mind at times, but sometimes it just works. You get your ideas, you put it down on paper, and you get your new fans, and they absolutely love it. So yeah, complete and utter pantser. Can't plot to save my life.
I'm a plotter. I ask the question because I am the person who when I decided on my characters, I went and wrote backstories. I did the research to figure out what kind of feelings you would have as a 14-year-old girl going into a new school. I wrote an outline, and I stuck to my outline pretty hardcore, but I know some plotters that are like, on page 37, he dies. And I'm like, no, that's it's too much. I don't know. I might as well just write the book if that's what I'm going to put in my outline. So I like to have an outline, and I redo my outline several times throughout the book. But the book has to be filled with emotion. And so I feel like it takes away from our spectrum of imagination and our openness to put whatever we want into this book, so that our readers get our message when we have to stay on the outline or the plot. And so that I'm definitely a plotter for sure, but I'm kind of in the middle.
I am an absolute plotter. I'll plot every single tiny little thing down to each tiny little chapter. I need to know what the particular character is learning during that chapter, what is the part of the storyline, how it connects with everything else. Nothing is left to chance. I don't like stories writing themselves. I like to write it. I need to know where it's ending up. I need to know where it's going. I need to be in charge of it. Like I say, I'm a control freak.
I don't want to feel like I'm working on a dissertation, and this is not to shade anybody in terms of how they do the writing. I think do what works for you, but also understand the sort of writer that you are. I'm somebody who found my voice not through doing writing courses or any of that. I literally found my voice just from being a voracious reader and wanting to experiment. That's how I found my voice. So for somebody like that, plotting from A to B is not like every single thing. Yeah, I plot some things, definitely, but I keep the process fluid deliberately, because that basically works for who I am as a writer. It lends itself to my writing style. And the sort of work I like to do. So I keep thinking, because it's more fun for me that way, to not plot everything, every single thing to death. One of my favorite directors, David Lynch, he says, you gotta leave room for the goldfish to come, and by that he means you gotta have like freedom for exciting things to come to you. And, it also suits, I guess, the way I see writing, because I think writing for me is a process of investigation. It's not a process of knowing or going to the page knowing everything, because if you do, like, how do you learn? So in some ways I think I take a humble approach, because I'm trying to find the crux of the story. I'm trying to investigate something. What does it mean for a young woman who's traumatized, who's lost her mother? How does she reconcile with her family legacy? And her mental health is really precarious. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does it mean? So the process of investigating that, some of it I will have an understanding of, but some of it I'll also sort of leave open for ideas to come to me. So I think you've got to do a little bit of both. You want to be able to find the process really exciting, and as a writer you have to figure out which sort of writer I guess which sort of writer you are and what you need to do to keep you excited about what you're doing.
I would have to say pantster, because I naturally free write, so I can start writing, and I can quite easily bang out a few thousand words a day quite easily, as long as I'm not disturbed and I get my head in the game. I can just free write.
In terms of pantsing and plotting, when I write with a partner, plotter, absolutely, you have to stick to it. You have to both be on the same page at all times. When I am writing solo, I set out to be a plotter, but wait, what's that outline over there? I don't know what that is. I'm writing this over here. I am absolutely a pantser. I have written entire books where I get the first 3 chapter titles down, and then the rest is just straight off my head. Sometimes it just works really well that way, and sometimes I have to go back and do a lot of reorganization, but sometimes the story is just there in my head. I just need to get it down, and usually during those times I try to get it down as quickly as possible. So
for me, pantser all the way. That is why we have to have an outline for our co-author books, because I am pantser all the way. I'll say, oh, okay, well, the story's going to go here and here and here. And he's like, no, that wasn't in the outline. But I am definitely a pantser. I go where I feel like the story is taking me. And pretty much everything that I've written, even if there was an outline, the outline's gone.
By nature, I'm a pantser. However, it is incredibly inefficient, especially for someone who tends to go off on massive tangents like I do. So I am now kind of incorporating a new strategy where the first 10,000 words I pants. I get a good feel for my characters. I get a good feel for my story. And then after that, I officially sit down, look at the beat sheet, look at Act 1 and say, okay, this is what I want my story to go to. And then I write it. As I'm editing the first act, I start brainstorming the second act. And I start plotting for that and then writing it. So that's kind of my process that I'm doing right now. I find it is really effective. It allows me the freedom that I want as a writer. And it is far more efficient.
So I'm definitely more of a plotter. I always start with an outline. The snowflake outline is my favorite way to do it. And so I will outline through my Act 1, and then I will write, and then I'll outline my Act 2, and then so on and so forth. And that gives me enough wiggle room to still play with things as I write, that if something changes from the idea I have in my head, I'm not like locked in stone with my outline.
And so now I plot a lot because I just can't afford to make those big mistakes. And also in my own series, Wonder Kids, I'm now finishing the finale to the trilogy. And when it's a finale to a trilogy as well, like you have to like really understand how it's all going to connect. We did pants a little bit with Vampires of Moscow because we still didn't know and we were having a lot of fun, but we also paid a bit of a price for it. So we were like rigorously editing, cutting, fixing, because inevitably when you pants, some great stuff is going to happen, but you are going to pay a price, like a word count down the line.
And they're crime novels. At the end of the day, she has a crime to solve, and you really need to tie that up. And we tied ourselves in knots a little bit with Vamps, and we were like, oh, wait a minute, like, what's the plot again, Jackie? I thought you knew. Well, oh my God, we've really got to make this make sense for the reader because it's not making sense for us. So now we're being much more methodical. But what's cool is we know exactly what happens right through to the last book. So as we're writing these books, we know where it's going. And that's really, really important, that the reader gets that sense of satisfaction at the end. There's nothing worse than reading a book and then the author decides to do a sequel and there's no correlation. These are really tightly knit together.
I thought about this for a while. I think I used to be a pantser. I didn't actually know that there was novel structure. And so I have a whole bunch of novels that got to, 5 to 7 chapters, and then I got completely stuck. And I would just turn the page on my notebook and start over with something brand new, thinking that maybe I just didn't love the project. It wasn't until this book that I've been working on that I actually had a developmental editor take a look at it and say, oh, well, the problem is you don't really seem to have a beginning, middle, or end. And I thought, that would be why this has been so difficult. So I did a lot of reading about novel structure, figured out really what the major story beats were and what order they came in, and then started to play with that. So I do write myself a pretty, for a pantser, it would be a really detailed outline. For a plotter, maybe not so much. I have all the major story beats in kind of a storyboard format, and I give myself what I think of as a writing prompt per chapter. So it's the thing that I need to get done in that chapter. I have no idea how I'll do it until I start to actually write. But I know that at the end of the chapter, I need to accomplish something.
I'd rather plot than pants, be a plotter rather than a pantser. And so I believe that crafting a perfect ending is more important than wandering through the writing and kind of finding the ending. I like to know what it is before I finish the book.
I'm a bit of both. I started off being a plotter at the beginning, and I'd have notes and notes and notes. I've been recently just deleting and creating a whole bunch of bags full of just shredded paperwork from them all. I got tired of it. And so now I just do pretty much, I'll write down a few key notes, signposts along the way that I try to reach in order to further the plot. But for the most part, let it go. Let's see where it goes. And usually it's pretty fun. Sometimes, okay, back it up a little bit. It's a wonderful thing about the backspace and delete.
And there you have it. I asked the question and my writer experts responded. You can check the description for links to their work. Go and buy their books. They've worked really hard to create such great, awesome content. Go and buy their books and say the idiot on the writer's block sent you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so the YouTube algorithm gods say this channel is great. But what did you think about their choices? If you're a writer, do you consider yourself a pantser or a plotter? Put your opinion in the comments below. When I started writing, I started off as a pantser, definitely. But then as I grew, I definitely moved full plotter. I don't know if it's an age thing. It really helped me when I was writing scripts and screenplays to be really prolific. And I wrote a lot of short scripts really quickly because I could plot the idea and know that this and this and this is going to happen. And boom, I could get a 10-page short script done in 10 hours. It worked. But now I'm moving into novels and it's slightly different. But I still think I'm going to take that as a plotter in that direction. I'm Marcus, and I'll see you next time.